I am back and we are interviewing Qhakaza Arts creatives. So we are waiting for them to request to be in this live.
Yay! Hey,
Hey,
Sihle.
hey, I'm here.
Hear me? Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes,
All
yes,
right.
yes. Hi,
Thank,
Sevi.
thank you so much for agreeing to, go on an interview with me. It's really appreciated, and I appreciate that there's somebody who sees this platform as something that could enhance um, my business and their business, so to speak. So we'll just jump right into it. Let's start with our first question. An easy one, just to, calm the nerves. So,
Oh,
of course, I know, but tell us
hmm
about yourself and your journey leading towards Qhakaza. Very briefly, however way you want to take it.
all right. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to you, Sevi, for having me. I think you're doing a great job.
Thank
I'm very
you.
impressed with like I said, I just watched your video on YouTube now because I wasn't aware of this venture
Yes,
that you're in now.
so
Yeah, it
very,
looks good. And
yeah.
yeah, I'm proud of you. And yeah, once again, thank you for having me. So, my name is Sihle ozalwa kwaMthethwa, married kwaChinonge.
Nice.
I was born in Soweto back in the 80s. I was born in Soweto in 1989
Right.
and I grew up in Soweto. I went to school in Tandweni Primary School at Zondi and I did my high school in Snake Park where I grew up at Sebeza. Uthole Moputso High School. And then after that, I went to study fine art at TUT.
Hmm?
And after TUT, I went to VETS and I did my PGCE there, which is postgraduate certificate in education. So my journey with art actually started long ago. You know,
Okay.
I've always um, been this arty child, I've always wanted to do art. And
Okay.
at that time, I didn't even know that it was something one could pursue as a career until my sister went to college at Burnham Business College. And when she got there, that was like the first exposure for
Okay.
like all of us in the family of what else was out there in the world. And so my sister came back and she told me that, this thing you're interested in, it's actually called fine art. I was like,
Oh,
what? Because for so long we didn't have a name for this thing, You just know, I just knew that I wanted to do art, but I had no idea what it was called. So my sister went to school and she got the name for this thing. And since then, it's just been fine art, fine art, fine art.
yeah.
But actually, before that, when I was in grade four, and then when there were these guys who came from a place called Kopanong in Dobsonville. There's
Okay.
a center that's called Kopanong. I don't know if you know it. I'm sure you do. They used to do like a whole lot of things there. There were a lot of activities that took place. And there was dance, there was drama, and there was also art. So these guys came to our school and they introduced us to this thing. And I think not every day, it was probably like twice a week after school would go there and would do art. That's when I had like a proper introduction into fine art, although I didn't have a name for it at that time. So they supported us, they gave us materials, and they would put still lives for us to paint, to draw. And yeah, it was quite a nice place and a very happy environment. I actually have some of my fondest um,
Very.
memories from that place because even going to Johannesburg Art Gallery, my first encounter with that place was from that after school thing we used to do there. So one Saturday they took us to Johannesburg Art Gallery and they exposed us to all, types of art and artists. So yeah, that's part of my journey. And
It's
yeah,
can I
growing up. all the way.
Can I
Yeah.
I'm interested in, I think maybe I'm going a little bit off, but I'm interested in how you're saying the it seems as if there's no access or resources enough for us in the hood to define certain careers. Do you think now that you are in a, well, we are in a better position in terms of, opening up um, all other avenues in our careers or in the school careers for Soweto schools? Like, is it, how can I say, do we have access? Do we have resources yet? Because it's as if it was by chance that that thing was sparked in you. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So if it wasn't for the group of guys that came to your school, do you think right now there's still more for us to do in the hood because I
Yeah.
mean, look at a lot of us and going from my experiences, we only know about four professions: accountant, doctor, lawyer, policeman, nurse, teacher, So now
Yeah.
when you start, I'm sure maybe your parents were like, Sihle, my child, why can't you be
Yeah.
a doctor or a
It's over
policewoman or something,
Yeah, the gap is still there, Sebe. I think, and being a teacher myself, I've seen that, the gap is still there in our Black communities. I think we still have a long way to go in catching up with everyone. I think what
Even,
makes it better now,
yeah.
I think what makes it better now, it's exposure. The internet has made the world to be very small.
Okay.
We've become a global community virtually, without um, traveling and all. So I
Mm,
think the internet makes things slightly better because child, you can just take your mother's phone or your own phone. You just need data, which is still a problem as well, you know. So yeah, that can be a gatekeeper as well. But anyway, I feel that the internet has made the world a bit different. We're a bit more exposed to things that we didn't know before because of the internet. But when you go down there in the ground, I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, especially by people like me,
yeah,
coming from that same background and being where I am now. There's
yeah.
still a lot of work for us to do. Yeah, but there's still a lot of work to do. The exposure is not at the level it's supposed to be at. The gap between the privileged and underprivileged, it's very wide.
Hmm. All right, let me leave
Yeah.
it. I think it's a topic for another day. I certainly would
It's
like
a topic
for
for
you.
another because
Yeah.
because right now I'm also thinking about, this COVID
Yeah.
situation, and yeah, it's a topic for another day.
Okay, let's move on. So, what made you decide entrepreneurship? I can imagine because you're saying you were a teacher and then now I believe you are full on entrepreneur and focusing
Yeah.
on arts. So, what influenced that? What was that thing? Okay, this is what I want to do, and I'm going for it.
Okay. Um, to share about that, I'll take you a step back to
Okay.
my journey. So I studied fine art and I went and did education. And then after doing education, I started teaching, obviously. So the problem I encountered while I was teaching was that I wasn't getting opportunities to teach art because most of the schools where I taught were Ekasi. And Ekasi, we only have arts and culture. We don't have, full on art. And then after that, I also taught at a village, like in the Bundus. And I went to stay in Mafikeng in 2014, and I was teaching like deep, deep, deep in the Bundus. So again, there's I don't think anyone thinks of fine art even. So chances for me of teaching fine art were getting narrower and narrower, after moving out of the city. So I moved to another town in 2015. So I had to look for another job, you know. This was in Klerksdorp. So in 2015, I struggled to find work. I searched, I went everywhere. I just couldn't find work. And so I think it was during that year that this idea came about because I was literally sitting doing nothing, waiting for a phone call. And so this idea of starting something came about in 2015. And I decided that I would do art classes. And then I went on the internet, I searched how to start and all. So I had a very good plan on paper, but I never saw it to fruition. That year went by and passed and nothing happened. Because starting is always a problem. You only realize once you start. Yeah, you only realize once you've started that all I needed to do was to start, So I never did this thing in 2015, but I was busy working on it, planning. So that's where Qhakaza started. The name wasn't there, but the idea was there. So the initial idea wasn't to start a business where I'm selling my own artwork. The initial idea was starting an art school, so to speak. But at that time, I actually wanted to do it as like extramurals. So kids would come to my place after school and, would have some art lessons. As time went on, the idea evolved. So in 2016, I studied project management. And this was inspired by this idea, that I want to start my own thing. So the idea now changed. It was no longer about having children coming over to do extramurals and paying for their classes. I now had this idea that I want to go to schools where there's no exposure to art, like farm schools or schools Egazi, wherever I find myself. I want to go there and support those kids. So now the idea evolved into an NPO kind of idea.
Yes.
So now I wanted to, like I explained, I wanted to go help those kids. So that's when it started here as Qhakaza. And so where I am now in entrepreneurship, the idea is to help my NPO. I haven't started it, but I realized that, starting an NPO, I need money, because I'm going to need materials to go teach those kids. So where's the money going to come from? So I did a bit of research and I came across this guy. I actually know him very well now. He also works for NPOs and they do sponsorships for small projects. So now with an NPO and getting sponsorship, the trick is that you need to start. You need to be doing something. They're not just going to give you cash and you are sitting there. You still want to see if this thing is going to work, So I was like, let me start a business then. Sorry, please excuse me for a second. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I decided that let me start a business because, I know how to do this thing and I'm passionate about it. I'd like to get my work out there as well. So that's how I started this business. So the end goal for me is to get that exposure for myself, as an artist, and the fulfillment that I didn't get as a teacher. Although I loved teaching, I still love teaching and I'm very passionate about it, but there was just a lack of fulfillment in that I wasn't teaching what I wanted to teach when I went into that space, So right now, I get that fulfillment because I do classes as well. Well, people have to pay for the classes, I'm still on that side. But that's not the goal. It's just a means to an end, So I have children and adults coming for classes, and so this money it feeds into the business, and eventually this business is going to feed into my NPO.
So talking about classes, when are the classes? Maybe you can explain a little bit more about your product in itself, because I think part of the reason of this interview is to find out about resin. It's called resin, ne?
Resin art, yeah.
So, particularly into that, it's very interesting how you come up. In fact, I was hoping that I would meet you so we can actually make one of the resin coasters that you make. I don't know if you have the right in front of you. Maybe you can show us.
No, I don't have anything right here. I'm in the bedroom, as you can see. No, I don't have anything, unfortunately. But maybe if
So,
you can pause this video, I'll quickly get something downstairs. Yeah.
okay, I have to pause this.
Nobody. Okay, let's continue.
Okay, then maybe let's ask, what would you say has been the most fulfilling thing about, Qhakaza and entrepreneurship? I mean, yeah, Qhakaza entrepreneurship. What has been the most fulfilling part about the journey of, not seeking a conventional or traditional way of employment and doing it through something that you're passionate about? Because I feel like in entrepreneurship, especially, you do need the passion. I'll share a little bit about myself. And for the longest time, I don't know, Mgani, I've been very, very obsessed about matching underwear. But coming from a family, Nibanini, you don't have the resources or the money. This money that you have, the little money that it has to stretch a long way. So you don't have necessarily the funds to get what you wanted. So now as an adult, I'm like, okay, I want to create something that is affordable and accessible to a young girl who goes to school. I feel certainly very, very comfortable and happy in matching underwear. And I wanted the feeling to go to Usebe, who was 13, who couldn't afford that, who was wearing pink and yellow and you know what I mean. So
And burgundy.
and burgundy. So
Flowers.
for me, the passion is there because I feel like that girl deserves that kind of underwear. So
Yeah.
what has been the most fulfilling part for you?
I think part of your question actually answers the question you're asking, doing this thing through what you love, something you're passionate about. I think there is no better drive to excellence than doing what you love, because no one has to wake you up in the morning to say, get up and, get that thing started. You don't need an alarm clock to remind you, to do that. It's something you love. You just spontaneously get up and do it. And I think that's the most fulfilling part about it, that I'm getting to do something I love, something I'm very passionate about, and at my own pace. As a teacher, I had a lot of admin. Like, the admin is overwhelming. Okay? Those people who complain that teachers get a lot of holidays, the money they're getting is too much because of the holidays. Like, you have no idea. There's like so much work there. Besides the kids, you don't go home and sit with your family. There are periods where you need to be marking and doing all those things. So I think, not that I'm trying to discourage people who are in that profession. I encourage it. I think it's the mother of all professions. I have a lot of respect for it. But the difference with doing it now is that I'm doing it at my own pace, and I'm able to teach what I always wanted to teach. My own rates, my own space, my own curriculum. And I feel a very strong sense of empowerment that I get to sit down and draw up my own curriculum. For me, that's very important as a teacher. So yeah, it's very fulfilling that I get to do what I want, and I'm self-driven. I don't have to be told to do it at what time, at what terms. So yeah, it's very fulfilling in that sense.
Okay. So my next question to you is, okay, it's a very easy one, in fact. What are the top 3 skills that you think are needed to be a successful entrepreneur?
Sure. Wow. Okay. Top 3 skills that I needed to be a successful entrepreneur. Sure. Why are you asking me a difficult question? I've been an entrepreneur for 6 months. Okay, just from my personal experience, I think you need, I don't know if passion or drive is a skill. But I think you need that passion and that drive. I would say number 1, that's what you need. And you need discipline, especially if you're going to be starting your own thing. Okay, you need to be very disciplined. You need to be able to follow through You know, when you make a commitment that this is what I want to do at this time, you need the discipline to follow through. So the third thing is to have courage. Courage, you know, because I think most of us are just haunted by fear. You know, like I said, that I had this dream since 2015. I mean, that's 5 years in, just dreaming and planning, you know. So I think we do need courage, because fear will just stop you from doing everything and anything. If you're scared, you won't go anywhere. So I think those are the top 3 things I can think of right now. They're not skills really, but I think it's some of the things you need to be successful in business, in entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Maintain that fear now, because I mean, from my journey, I had a fear of starting. And then when you've started, you have a fear of maintaining, or, you know, rather making sure that this thing works. How do you manage your fear now? You know, of saying, okay, I'm doing this. I'm no longer going to fear. Because for me, I suffered from Dambuza routine, you know, like, how this girl. So, for me personally, it's a daily struggle. I don't know how to manage it. So I'm asking you, you know, somebody who's ahead of, how do you manage your fear now?
There's something I've learned recently about fear. I actually attended a webinar recently where they were discussing these kind of ideas. And there's something that Ilona Hlachwayo said, and she said the worst thing about fear is, wait, I'm trying to think of this properly. Oh, okay. No, I'm actually confusing the two. Fear of failure. That's what you're talking about, right?
Fear of failure.
Because that's where that stems from, right? What if this thing doesn't work out? You know, what was she thinking? So she said that the worst thing about fear of failure is not doing anything about what you have learned from your failure. You start something, you do it, you fail. So the worst thing about that is that what do you do? If you don't do anything about that, then that's the worst part of it. And another important thing I've learned from that process was that you are not your business. You are safe. You know, I am Sihle, and then there's my business. If my business fails, I have not failed. You know, my business has failed, but not me. So I think that's where fear creeps in most of the time, that we think that if my business fails, then I have failed also. But there are so many people who started businesses and the businesses crumbled. They lost a lot of money. They lost dignity and so forth. But they picked themselves up. Yeah. And they're flying now. We look up to them and so forth. And one of the people I'd like to mention is Amanda Dambuza. I don't know if you're aware of Amanda Dambuza, but she really inspires me, that woman, you know, when I listen to her story and her journey. And she's encountered failures as well on her journey to success. But she didn't, you know, stay on the ground. She picked herself up, and it just affirms that you are not your business. You know, the business is something that you have started, or whatever venture that you're going into. So if that thing fails, then you have not failed. You know, if you are still here, you're still alive, then try something else or learn from the failure and move on. Don't let fear stand on the way. You know, so I think for me, that's the philosophy I subscribe to, you know, to say that if this thing doesn't work out, it's not the end of me. You know, what can I learn from that moving forward?
Yeah. So, you know, In terms of also fear, I think a lot of people don't know, Guti, entrepreneurship is a lot of work. You know, you can't put in 1 hour and say, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, you know. And when you start in entrepreneurship, there's a lot of work that you need to do, right? And
Yeah.
people don't know the behind the scenes. I only see the end product of the beautiful coaster that you would have presented. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but people don't know the behind the scenes. And so I would like to know, how many hours do you spend on your business, and how do you come up with fresh ideas, new ideas for your business? Because I feel like in entrepreneurship, we adapt a lot according to the times
Mm.
of fashion, you know, but still being true to ourselves. So with that, how much work are you putting into your business?
Okay. So for me, you need to consider that I have a son that I'm raising,
Yes.
who's not going to crèche.
My next question,
So,
how entrepreneur,
huh?
how entrepreneurship? It's my next question. You can answer everything all at once. Guta, how has it affected your family life, the entrepreneurship also?
Okay, let's keep that for later because I'm probably going to forget by the time I finish answering these two questions. Yeah, okay. So for me, I have a son who's with me 24/7, and I don't have a helper. I think I should
Yeah,
mention that. So all the work of the helper,
is
ila gim, you know, and I don't know if we should do that, but anyway, yeah. So all the work of the helper is here,
yeah,
and my son is here. So I think I have peak seasons because like right now I'm in I'm in the business. So there are times where I have a lot of orders. So I'd spend almost the whole day. I can't tell you how many hours to say you know um I don't think I'm at that level yet, where I say strictly on a daily basis, I have to put in at least like 4 hours. It's not like that. I've tried to do that, but I think I'm one of those people. I really struggle to follow through with a strict regime.
yeah.
I think I have a routine, but not a strict regime that, if I didn't do this thing today, ish, yeah, I am child, I struggle with that a lot. And yeah, so I do put in the work. It depends on the season. So if I have a lot of orders, I'll
Yeah.
basically spend the whole day working on it. And if it's dry, if I have nothing, then I just
Mhm.
work on developing a new skill. You know, there's another webinar that I fed from, and this guy was saying that the problem with most of us artists is that we are trying to be perfect, you
Yeah,
know. Um,
yeah.
but it shouldn't always be about perfection. It should be about the work that you've put in. So I think I liked that a lot, and it really inspired me to do something every day. So even if I didn't spend 4 hours on a piece or 2 hours on a piece, the important thing is that I've put in some work in it. Yeah, so I don't have like a certain number of hours that I work um, on a day, but I do something every day that I can guarantee you. Yeah, even if it just means painting the background for my canvas that I'm going to use tomorrow. I've done something for the day, and yeah, it's not perfection. It's about that I've put something into it.
So I like what you
Yeah.
said.
And what was the next question? Sorry, I forgot the next question.
How has it affected your family life or your personal life, entrepreneurship? Have you found that you know how a lot of people, entrepreneurship is lonely? And I
Mm,
can imagine it affects also your family. You don't get to see your son, but you've answered that to say there are times where you are away from your family a lot, and there are times where you actually have time to be with them. And what was interesting with what you said, you spoke about dry seasons, and
yeah.
I think a lot of us get discouraged actually about the dry seasons because we're expecting would see, okay, I've made this certain number of things, and I'm expecting to sell them, and when it doesn't sell, then it's like, oh my gosh, I failed. And how would you encourage an entrepreneur, one who's starting, especially about those dry seasons? What is your motivation or your advice to them to keep going in those times?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say, especially to an artist, is just keep producing, keep working. You know, someone once said that favor, it's when opportunity meets readiness. You know, so if you don't work on it, even on a dry season, someone will come tomorrow and say, you know, do this for me, do this for me. But if you don't put in any work during a dry season, then that opportunity will find you unprepared, you know, and you will have missed out on a lot. But if you put in work, even during a dry season, do something. You know, if you are a painter, paint. Have a collection of, you know, of work that's sitting there. You know, someone might come tomorrow and say, you know, I need paintings from my office. Can I have a look at what you have done before? You know, and when you were sitting during a dry season, now summer is here. It's time to harvest, and there's nothing, you know. So that opportunity comes as harvest. You know, you would be reaping off from what you have been putting in during a dry season. So what I would say is that during a dry season, don't just sit and do nothing. You know, you do feel discouraged, you know, at times, but just pick yourself up. Go on the internet, go on YouTube, see what other people are doing. Keep your head up, man. Like, don't just sit and do nothing. Keep yourself busy. That time will come. You know, someone will come and say, show me, and you will have nothing to show. So yeah, keep at it.
So
keep
I think
at it. I don't know. Yeah.
Continue.
I'm saying I don't know in other industries or in other businesses, but I think the principle the principle cuts across the board. Like, yeah, just put work into it. If you're a researcher, continue with the research. And another thing that I've realized in business is that you always have to have someone you look up to, or have a mentor. Mentorship is very important because this journey can get very lonely. And sometimes you think you are the only one who's going through that particular season, you know. So if you have mentorship, it really helps, because, you know, someone has gone through that before, you know, someone has made mistakes before. And so you just feed off that person to avoid those, you know, to avoid those paths. So, yeah, I think mentorship is very crucial in this journey. I've found myself a few mentors, and like, yo, I'm holding on to them. Eh? I'm not letting go. I am like holding on. I'm not letting go because I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot from these people. Yeah.
Okay, Sihle, we're almost at the end of our discussion. Yeah. So I'm trying to find my questions actually. Okay, so this one, just before the last one, if you were to start again, what would you do differently? If you were to start again, I'm not going to say Qhakaza per se, but if you were to start again, what would you do differently in your career in arts? What would you do differently?
I would have started sooner. I would have started 5 years ago. You know, that time when that dream, I would have started sooner, because now that I've started, I realized that what I needed to do was to start. You know, there was nothing more that I needed to do. You acquire more skills and you get more resources when you are in the journey, you know. So sometimes we are just sitting and you're like, oh, let me get all of these things first before I start. So this time I just took the plunge and I was like, I'll see what happens when I get there. And, you know, it's happening now that I'm here. So I would have started sooner. And what else I would have done? I would have probably studied business management instead of project management.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the problem with my industry is that you go to school You learn all the skills that you need for art, practical theory. By the time you leave, you are sharp. You are
Mm,
top
perfect.
class.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the problem is that campus is a very small world, right? When you're on campus, everything feels perfect, everything feels fine, and you feel like all your dreams will come true. When you go to an art gallery, you go to a museum, you see all these great works and artists, but you don't ask yourself, Guti, how many people have, how many people who have studied art have managed to have their work in this space?
Yeah.
It's like a very small percentage of those people. But when you're an arts campus, you think that that's where your work will land. You
Yeah.
know, you don't wonder how you're going to go about getting to that place. So yeah, that's one of the challenges. So when you get out into the bigger world, you don't know where to start. Number one, because being an artist means it's either you're going to go into academia, maybe go do your master's, end up being a lecturer and so forth, or you're going to be a teacher like me. I went for the education route. Or if you don't do any of those, there are people who are not interested who don't have the patience and the passion for teaching. Um, if you don't do any of that, then it means you need to be an artist. You need to produce and sell and exhibit. So I feel that's one of the things we're not prepared for at school. With how do you now face this world that's bigger than you? We're not given entrepreneurship skills. We don't do business. To help us enter in that world. So yeah, I think that's one thing I really wanted. I was really passionate about sharing, Uguti. Varsity doesn't really prepare us for the world out there, because many people end up working in retail stores. You go to town, you go to find someone packing stuff, and you're like, is this my, is this where I'm going to end up as well after spending 4 years at varsity? And some of us, we are coming from rather underprivileged backgrounds. After spending 4 years at varsity, your parents are expecting something, and now you have dreams and aspirations with when I finish, I'm gonna work, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 for my mom and stuff like that. And then you see your seniors packing clothes at Truworths, and you're like, yo, guys, but the problem is that they were not prepared. They're not prepared for the bigger world. So yeah, that's one of the things I would do if I were to start afresh after doing my my arts, my education. I think I would have done business management or something business related, just to help me to venture into this world. But project management wasn't such a bad idea. I learned a lot. It was a bit uncomfortable. I had to do financial management. It was very difficult in certain areas, but I think it gave me a better start.
Yeah. You mentioned those points because these are part of the conversation that we're having now, to say perhaps we need to relook at the education system in terms of what we teach to children, because it doesn't make sense to, I don't know, some people are advocating for DSTEM, and people are saying, but in this world now, it doesn't make sense because my child is going to be a soccer star anyway. And I want my child to be able to be prepared. And I'm feeling like, from what you're saying, is that young artists who are still at technical schools or varsity or these other institutions need to start from that place. Like entrepreneurship starts long before it actually starts, and we need to be prepared for it. And I think for us, abantu abamnyama, it's like a bomb. You only realize once you are there that, oh, actually there's finance, there's marketing, there's this.
Exactly.
And now you're starting from the back, literally. You're not starting with your peers. And I'm so glad that this came up, actually, because this is something that needs to be reiterated into our world, to say, you know what, guys, it actually, for us to succeed, we need to start when we're in grade 1. When we're 7 years old, we teach our children entrepreneurship, life skills, and we need to be serious about those kinds of topics going into our education system. So I'm so happy that this came up in our conversation, you know. And
Yeah.
I suppose you've answered me. My last question was, what advice would you give to graduates in the art space? And look, you've that was just like a wholesome answer for me. The previous
Okay,
statement.
so that question is answered. Great.
You're saying we need to start way before we start. You know,
Yeah.
we cannot be one trick ponies. You know, you go to
Mm.
school. In my instance, you go to school and you study accounting, only to find that when you get out, you're like, but okay, this is not what I thought accounting is
Yeah.
about. I lack creativity, and that's something that needs to happen into that space to say a lot of accounting graduates get stuck in jobs they don't want to do because we lack the creativity. So maybe creative arts in the accounting field would be a subject would be great to say you need to think
Mhm.
outside of where you are, you know? So
Mhm.
wow, hey, wow. Wow, Sihle, you so amazing. You are amazing, making me think like, you know, it's on top of your feet.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Sihle, tell us where we can get your product because we've spoken about everything else. But now I want to
Mm.
just end it off with your product. How can we get you? If you're comfortable with, you know, price ranges, like with who is your target market? Can I just come and order and give you my design, or how does it work?
I'm still working on the website, ne? Like I said, I started this business like 6 months ago. Is it
Okay.
6 months? It's probably 7 months now because I started in December last year.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to develop that, but the main place where you can get me is Instagram,
Grab. Okay.
Qhakaza Art Space, and you can contact me on 083-288-7525. Yeah, you can send me a WhatsApp.
Yeah.
You can send me a WhatsApp, or you can call me and yeah, and order what you want. My target market right now, like yo, anyone who's willing to pay, anyone who's willing to pay. So the space that I'm in right now, it's interior. I'm in
Mm.
the interior space. Okay, so I am painting on canvases. I'm making the art with resin.
Yeah.
So that would go onto your walls at home. And I'm also making boards, sorry, serving boards
Yes.
and coasters.
Mm.
So I think I'm very open right now. You know, if you love drinking tea, champagne, you just like nice things, Jay, you know, you can holler me and I can make you nice coasters, you know, when you're sitting there sipping on you or whatever, you can just
Yeah.
put on a nice coaster. And
Yeah.
those are not expensive. They're like I think my entry level is like 200, 280, 250. Yeah, so right now I think I'm open. And like I said earlier, that I'm also doing art lessons. So I take adults and I also take children at different times. So I do art lessons for 520
Okay.
um, a 2 hour session.
Our session. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah.
All right,
And
Sisha.
actually one of my adult students is now gotten into the business as well. She's making her
Oh, wow.
own her own her own coasters, her own serving boards, and yeah, she's now selling and
Ooh.
one of my